Hello guys, this is Mohamed Farah and this is going to be my English 1117 section 48 visual analysis essay for Dr. Catherine Hansen, and let's get started. To start off, image 1, as you see right here, this is image 1. To start it off, it shows a picture of the Mexican border with two sides on it. As you see right here on the side closest to us, or the left side, shown right here. There is a man in a ball black clothing, and on the opposite side seems to be America, or the non-Mexican side of the border. Shown in this picture here, some things you can really glimpse at here. There are simple things you can notice. On the side of the man, it seems more trash-filled. It seems more bad, you could say. It's more dirtier, in my opinion. Over on the opposite side, the right side, shown right on the right very side, there is homes, nice villages, a villa. There is a car right there with something attached to it. I do not know, but shown there it is a police car, and the land seems just better in general over there. The picture in general isn't the best. But shown over there is just an image of it seems better over the opposite side. I feel like this image doesn't really show a straight up purpose. I mean, to inform or to persuade could be some things that you could point out. Now, currently, this image created was by Richard M. Stevenson on January 30th, 2013. Continuing on the rhetorical analysis, this image seemed to be created for maybe an audience of America, or just for any person reading on, maybe issues with Mexico and America, but essentially anybody could be the audience. Probably around middle-aged, maybe political people that are, really strong voters, political people that have good stances on immigration. And I wouldn't say there's a specific level of education or occupation that these people hold, but these people seem to maybe hold a view on immigration or stuff like that. This image conveys like a genre. Seems like a picture that would be in an advertisement or photography. An advocacy website would be something really good on it. This picture was captured and put on New York Times, talking about the economic issues within Mexico and America and the struggle these people are battling. So, some things to point out also from this image. Logos, it really doesn't seem like there's a lot of logos into it. Ethos, you can tell by the wall that it is something that is familiar. The Mexican wall is something that is pretty known to a lot of people of America, hopefully. Pathos, if you really dig deep into the image, you can tell like how there's just the separation of just essentially freedom and opportunity, and you see this man is basically barricaded from this chance to be having an opportunity in life. And you just see with all the full black clothing, it just seems like he's just kept inside to himself. A lot of sorrow, probably, you can tell from him. The way he has his hand in his pocket, just looking down from the way the photographer took the image. It seems, he's sad, maybe he just doesn't feel well. And, on the opposite side, the nice houses, the nice view, the land, seems to be better over there, and how, like, people like him and his people, and maybe if there's a village or more people that go through the struggle of immigration, how it goes through every day. People are saddened by the chance of not having an opportunity legally. So that is something that you can point out rhetorically. Touching base on the ethos, pathos, logo side with the appeals and the use of it, this image seems to be legitimate, but it does bring up some iffy questions. Some questions that I have is just, how was a photographer able to take this picture from that angle? Is the man in that image legitimately walking forward? Is he just staged? He's supposed to glimpse photography scene? Is the photographer American? Is he how did he get across the border if he was an American or a photographer? Was he able to? Was he given personnel to come here? Those are some questions that do raise its legitimacy. And, I could also say how it goes fake. Um, like I said, I'll be touching base on that with the next image on hand. But also on this image, I wouldn't say there's a story or message told to it. In the article in the New York Times, it was captioned how the economic struggle of these migrant workers and these immigrants, and just their their inability to come to America legally and work and support their family and get an opportunity to be in America, land of the free, home of the brave. But basically that pathos images invoke the kind of emotions and values invoked on this image. You really can see a lot of sorrow in this image. Beside these two different sides, there are two different kinds of people that reside in these images. You see the left side seems like a guy that's very sad, hands in his pocket, head down, all black, very sad. And the picture on the side on the right, nice homes, open land, a car right there. It just seems like as if two different images within one, basically. And how essentially there's just different things in this thing. Just left side land is just tattered, right side is just more organized, just nice roads and calmer place. So yeah, that is touching base on the rhetorical analysis and elements side. Now we'll be getting into the compositional elements. Now going into the image on the compositional side, there is one man. He's a male, and his race, assuming by the Mexican border and how he's on the left side of it, or on the Mexico side of it, I would assume that his race would be Spaniard. He would be Mexican. Gender, like I said, he was male. Socioeconomic elements, you cannot assume one right here, but based on the article, it had explained how there was economic hardship and how this image was linked to basically just an inability for migrant workers to come to America. So you can tell that there's a sense of poverty amongst these workers. So you can infer that this picture contains a man of poverty level and is a poverty-struck man. But you can't assume that. What does he look like? He just seems like an average man. From the shot, you can't tell, his facial features. You can't tell, if he's basically just, really hardworking or something like that. You really can't just determine that based on this image because it's just from such a far away picture. Like I had just said right now about what he was wearing and how his position standing, just looking at the ground. I would say he would be looking at the ground from the angle snapshot. I wouldn't know what he would be looking at. Basically, like I had stated earlier, there was no story something. What I would imply based on the article, based on with this picture, he is a migrant worker or an immigrant of a bad economic status, poverty struck probably, and how he's seeking work in America and isn't given that opportunity basically because of this wall, how there is such thing as border patrol, and how there's just how Americans are not going to let Mexicans inside of the United States of America legally and without documentation, or they would be illegal aliens. But this image does give off a big sense, just a poverty-struck sense. The color is very dim and it's dark. It just looks, just dirty. You see a lot of brown. You rarely see any color beside brown. Beside the right side onto the homes, you could see a dash of, maybe cobblestone or a little bit of green and blue. But beside that, this whole image conveys a lot of brown, just a dirty landscape. And speaking on the landscape, it seems like a very spacious place. From the shot of the image, the angle of vision, you could really tell it's just connecting to a lot of different, key components. Like I had said, the two different sides composed in one image. The left side Mexican poverty-struck side to the American side, the more opportunity-filled place. And now I had touched base on the compositional elements. I will be touching base now on the cultural elements. But basically, this image is just shown, it's basically shown throughout. Like I had stated earlier, he seemed to be a Mexican or more Spaniard man. I wouldn't assume that he would have any sexual issues or just anything with it. Nor is there any bias or stereotypes with this image. Some problems with this image, like I had said earlier, just the main point was its legitimacy, if it seemed to be fake or not. Now, seeing with this image, it is showing a lot of poverty-struck people, and how it's just by one man you can tell a lot by it. And now I will be comparing it with image 2. Hello guys, my name is Mohamed and I am back here with image 2. This image is a picture of up to 3 men crossing a barbed wire. Seems like they are crossing the border since it was stated in its article. This image was published on October 10th, 2014, and it was taken by Guillermo Arias for the Associated Press of the AP. In this image, you see 3 people crossing the border illegally. And it's let's start off with its rhetoric elements. Now, based on this image, its audience, based on the article at hand, its target audience would be Hispanics and Americans, and also concerned political leaders and its voters. Based on the article at hand, Barack Obama, who was currently in administration at the time, and he still is, had pressed a national security risk an issue for the problem at hand. The shocking number of illegal immigrants that are not from Mexico that basically are coming into America illegally and escaping through the border, shown in this picture below. But this image does raise a lot of questions, and I'll be here to explain it. But going off on that, its purpose, I wouldn't really say there would be a purpose. Like I had said earlier in my first image, these images don't really show something that I would want to say, but it would be something to persuade, based on the article, persuading more Hispanics to not cross the borders illegally and persuading Americans to bulken up on the security on the border on Mexico to America near Texas. But that is something that is a little bit touchy. This really is a hard thing to talk about for purpose, but talking about on the context and its genre. The genre seems to be it was in a advocacy website. Also, it seems to be something that was in a newspaper. Like I had said, for the Associated Press, it was also on a website. But based on this image, some things that I would like to really point out would be use of appeals, especially its ethos. This picture does not seem credible. Based on this image, a man has taken a picture of 3 people crossing the border illegally. Now, this act is illegal, like I just said, crossing the border illegally, but I feel like this image is fake. Now, the reason why I think it's fake is because I wouldn't think that a man would take a picture live of 3 people crossing the border illegally, and with there no supervision or personnel on scene, no border patrol nearby seizing these people, or questioning why a man is taking a picture of them. I feel as if this picture is set up having a man with his food, or just showing his pictures of water, but a picture of all these other people carrying jackets, just their supplies, everything that's they're given in life, and they have it brung with them. But this image is fake in my opinion, and like I just said, I wouldn't want to put bias to it, but you can see by the picture that you wouldn't really just think a photographer captured the perfect image of some people just happening to illegally crossing the border. This image is fake. You can raise some things to make it legitimacy, but at the end of the day, I would assume that it is fake or is set up. The way it's shown, it's just it can't be a real legit image. But if the image is not legit, the story can be still. It shows just, three people crossing the border, but, the true story behind it, of Hispanics and Mexicans crossing the border to America illegally, and they don't have no documentation. Also stated in the article below, or stated in the article that this image was in. It is shocking, since over the last couple of years, the number of people crossing into America has increased exponentially. It's not important that basically America is supposed to be stuff for Americans, and not illegal immigrants or illegal aliens in this sense. But it's really, really concerning, stated in the article. But some things that I can also state for its pathos, emotional values, like I said, just people looking for work, just people looking for an opportunity in life to come to America. Shown in a picture below, but you have to really look outside the box when trying to find these emotions or values. I really do not think it invokes much, since this image wouldn't be real in sense. But yeah, that is the rhetoric elements, and yep, I will be touching on the compositional elements of the image too. Starting on this image with the compositional elements, there are three people. Continuing off, like I had said in my image, they are crossing the border from Mexico to America, so you would only assume that these people are Spanish or Mexican of the Spaniard descent. Continuing off this image, there are three males. Socioeconomic status, based on this thing, immigrants and migrant workers, so you would assume, you wouldn't want to assume that they're poverty struck, but later on in the article you will see that there are a lot of people that are coming from Mexico to America that are poverty struck. So you would only just indicate that these people might have been poverty struck. What do they look like? They basically are just, typical men. They do seem middle aged, but same like a middle aged man, what they're wearing, how they are acting. They seem to be wearing jackets or just raincoats. Based on this image, it does seem like it's raining. By the lens of the camera, it seems there might be little raindrops on it. Based, on the horizon of the image, seems a little wet. And also how these men are having, basically raincoats in the outside. It seemed to be hot, but it's actually just raining. Um, they really are. It seems that they're as if they're looking down to the ground or forward. Um, I wouldn't really say there's a specific reason why, but you could just imply maybe, looking forward into the new land. The official border is right there, and as you see, this first man right here in the front indicates that he's officially crossed from Mexico to America. So maybe looking forward is into a new life, a new, generation of him and his family, if his family does come with him by chance. Seen by him and the other men, they're looking down. I don't see that specific reason as to why they are, but with the narrative image, I wouldn't think that there would be something very significant. Just a story told, like I said, on the article. Setting, just typical. I don't want to say it's typical, but you just see it's just the dirty land crossing up the border. Its illegitimacy makes it really low about it. And on the angle of vision, I wouldn't see as if it had one. Very dark colors. Beside their clothing, like I said in my other image, the dirt, just the emptiness in the land and the forest and the trees just really just denaturizes the picture in general. And I don't think there's a use of space in this image, since it's a very close-up shot, and based on that close-up shot, it's just the image in itself and no text. So that is basically the image itself. Nothing very cultural about it, beside just the crossing of the border of these illegal immigrants or migrant workers looking for opportunity, essentially. And that is the image at hand for image number 2. Here now is the comparison of both images. Comparing both images, these images are very alike. They convey some of the same topics and the same ideas in the same setting. Both images show people in a Mexican-American border setting. Only in one image do you see people crossing it, versus an image of actually people not crossing. It's shown in that image right there. But some things that you can also compare in these images are the time period it was made. The picture on the left was taken in the beginning of 2013, and the image on the right was taken in the around the middle, late end of 2014. So they're just a year apart, but they are very comparable in time. These pictures aren't decades within each other. They're near the exact same time period, and they also are comparable on the topic of their articles at hand, talking about illegal immigration and migrant workers can be crossing to America illegally. Some things that you can also tell are just the landscapes at hand. Both are very dirty. You see that there's not a lot of color in these images. More on the right image, there are some color, on the trees and the sunlight, but generally, there's both not a lot of just comparison of the dirts and how there's really no color at hand. Also, throughout this image, these images convey men who are struggling and who are trying to make themselves better by trying to come to America at hand. These artists convey the very distinct realities of these people and their situations, and it basically makes their audience think real deep and hard. For the emotional state on the right picture, it shows just men who basically just give it their all, and they actually make the move to illegally cross the border, whereas to the left, it really is just hopeless. I mean, there's no chance of making it, but at the same time you still get that emotional state of these two pictures at hand. um these two images, you could say they're very comparable in the shot like images. Both are somewhat close-ups. The right hand picture is more of a close-up, but at the same time the they're still both images of somewhat good space. But essentially, these two images are very similar and at the same time very different. Something that a really big topic that can compare them both is its somewhat legitimacy, but at the same time, the picture on the right is very different because of how it could very seem like it's fake. But that is going to be a wrap to my visual analysis. Comparing these images were very, very different and similar in its own ways with its own different elements, whether it's compositionally, rhetorically, or just, culturally. And that is my visual analysis essay. I hope you guys do enjoyed, and thank you so much. This is Mohammed, and I